Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Adam Ratliff with Adam So Fun, and today we are going to tackle the pantograph. You might be thinking like, hey Adam, you have Pro Stitcher, why are you tackling a pantograph? And my answer is, not everyone has a Pro Stitcher, and some people want to know how they work. A lot of people hear the word pantograph, a lot of people say it wrong and say pentagram, whatever, we all know what you mean. But a pantograph is usually a design. It's on usually a rolled up piece of paper. So you'll get your design, it's rolled up like this. This is not a pantograph, this is Golden Threads paper. But you would stick it on the table behind your machine, and you're going to use a laser light. You're standing in the back of your machine, so you're basically, we call it quilting from the back. Today I'm using one of the print at home designs from Quiltable. This one is called Fireplace. It's just some a little bit of flames. I think it's going to go really good with my quilt top that I pieced the other day. And my favorite thing, I had the perfect Omni V variegated thread to match this. So I'll be stitching with I'll be stitching with Omni V thread on top, which Omni V is just a variegated 40 weight poly wrapped polycore thread, and it's one of my favorites. In my bobbin, I'm using Bottom Line, a 60 weight thread from, both of those are available from Superior Threads. I do have my glide foot on. If you're going to be doing any type of pantographs or quilting from the back, a glide foot is a necessity, because you're going to be behind your machine. You're going to be looking, you're not going to actually be looking at your quilt top, you're going to be looking down here. You want to make sure that you're not going to have any accidents on your quilt top as you stitch, and that glide foot is a bowl, so it's going to hover right over everything. We'll take you to the front and show you that before we go. This is the maiden voyage of Taco 2. I like Taco 2 as the name. Some people said I should name him Taquito, but I like the 2-item taco combo. You know what I mean? So we're at the maiden voyage of Taco 2. I'm very excited. I've done a pantograph a few times. Like, Pro Stitcher is your pantograph. I don't have to do it. I actually was like, oh, I'm going to show them how to do a few rows, and then I'll just do the rest of it with Pro Stitcher, because you can do that. But then I was like, no, I'm going to finish this quilt with pantograph. Why not? We're doing it for the video. I'll just record and have you watch me. The thing with the pantograph, you're doing one row at a time. So you're going to either have to, you're going to have to advance the quilt every row, because you're going to stitch your row, advance your quilt, stitch your row. So I think this one, I didn't actually measure how tall this one is. And I didn't print out the page that gives you all the details on it. My bad. So this is 8 inches tall. My quilt top is like 1.5 yards. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of rows. That's a lot of free motion stitching I'm doing for you all. So I hope you appreciate it. Before we get into the stitching, if you haven't, please go down, like, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. It's 2022. It's all positivity this year. That's my goal, and that is my mantra. And make sure you hit that bell so you're notified when new videos drop on this channel. I do giveaways that usually aren't the normal Friday videos, so if you don't have the bell, you might miss those giveaways or miss that you won, because when the winner video comes out. So without further ado, let's jump over to the machine, and we'll see you back here in a second. All right, here we are. We're at the front of the machine, so we'll be stitching from the back. I see stray threads already that I need to trim. A few things. When I do pantographs, I'm going to baste down all my sides. You can see this is not basted down yet. The other side is. I got distracted. So I'm going to baste down all of my sides. One less thing to worry about as I'm stitching around. I'm not going to accidentally catch a side and it fold over and do something like this. I do have the glide foot on. So this is the glide foot. It's a bowl, and it hovers over the top. So when you get to things like seams, it just slides right over. It glides over them. So that's why we call it the glide foot. This is going to keep, especially if I had a lot of piecing, this is going to keep anything getting caught up and getting hurt, getting messed up into the needle. So I'm going to base this down. I also, if you're a fan of the channel, these are my new So Tight magnet side clamps. I'll link the video below. I use these because I can clamp. You actually can't see the clamps. They're off to the side farther. They're farther outside of frame. But this just has a So Tight magnet in it. so I can use that to clamp onto my backing and batting if the batting's long enough, and then that's going to hold everything. It keeps it out. It keeps the clamps out of the way, especially when you don't have a huge overhang. Like I don't have a huge overhang because I made this just for this video. This will end up being a dog quilt, I think, but because I'm stitching up pretty close, the side of my machine, where my needle is and everything, is here. If the clamps were on there, I'd be hitting those clamps. So this is going to slide right under. So since I'm here, I'm going to base this down really quick, because next step, we're going to jump to the back. If you are a fan of the channel, you're probably thinking, wait, you're not using your glide foot or your what is it called? Versatool. And I'm not, because I don't have the ruler base on this one. I have it on the old machine, and I didn't feel like switching it. So I just stuck the glide foot on. So there we are. We're going to jump to the back so we can put the pantograph together, talk about how to line things up, and then we'll get to stitching. Alright, so here we are at the back. You'll see some painter's tape, and that's going to represent the right side and the left side of my quilt top. So how I did this, I moved my needle. I can see the front of my quilt. I can see over the bar. So I'm going to move my machine a little bit to the right of the farthest right point that I can see, and I have my red light, my laser light here. I made a point. I marked it. And then I came straight back to me, and I marked another point. And I just used my painter's tape to connect the dots. So the right side of this tape is the farthest right part that I want to stitch. So then I did the same thing on the left side. And for you all on the video, you're going to be able to see this a little better. I can't slide over at all. So I did the same thing. So if you look at my glide foot, I'm going up there, a little over to the left, and I made my point down here on the tabletop. Brought my machine straight back. And if you have channel locks, you might want to use channel locks. Made my point right here. And, oh, that's right. And then I connected it with my two laser lights. So that's going to represent the right and left sides of my quilt top. Now, I'm going to put these together. So this design comes with 17 pages. I'm not going to need all 17 for this. So that's one of the other things I really like about the Quiltable print at home designs, is that you're only going to use as many as you need. You still have the other ones in case you get a larger frame later or whatever, but you have them. So one of the things I'm going to look at, it shows me my direction, my arrows, so I know that this is facing me, like I want to be able to read it. One thing on this quilt top, this is the top of my quilt, and I want to make sure that I stitch in that little bit of detail, because this is a nested design. So if you look at it, I have a top and a bottom. It's not a square, so I'm going to have to make sure things nest. So I'm going to have to come in when I do this and stitch the part that's nested. But I have those red and green lines, or those red lines to represent the top and the bottom, and the blue lines to represent the left and the right. So I'm going to line the top of my quilt top up with this red line that continues throughout the design. You get them on the top and the bottom, so that I know I need to stitch anything under the red line for those other designs. So I hope that makes sense. It should make sense when we actually start stitching. So now that we know we have page 1, we're going to start laying this out. So now I'm moving my machine so my laser light at the needle is right at the top right corner of my design. I'll take it out a little tiny bit, and now I have that same spot represented by my green dot, or by my red light here. So I'm going to line up the edge of my paper with my blue line and put the red line on my laser light. And this first piece I'm going to tape to the table. There we are. Perfect. So now I can just start taping these together. I was going to only use one tape. I'm a two-piece taper. Now, they don't have to be perfect, But let's try to make it perfect-ish. Does that work? You know me, nothing's perfect. Now, you'll see right here, because I think you can see, you should be able to see that because you can see the tape. You'll see right here that we can't, we're not going all the way to the line. I'm just going to improv that. I mean, it's off to the side of the quilt anyway, and it's going to be under binding if it is right on the edge. So I'm not worried about that. So just to make sure everything looks good, I'm going to just slide my machine across, making sure that the points of each of those are right on my laser light. If you have the low-tech channel locks, this is a great place to use them. You'll just pop them on your wheel so your wheel can't spin. That is perfect. So that's good. I'm gonna do the same thing on my red lines at the top, just to see everything's out of the way on my quilt top. I can look at my quilt top and know that I'm all good there. So that's good. I'm going to throw, I guess, we're going to throw a few more pieces of tape just onto the tabletop, just in case. Nothing should shift because everything is kind of taped down. But if you've used pantographs in the past, you'll notice that like this lays flat. I don't have to worry about trying to find things to hold everything down because everything's going to lay flat. Now I have my back handlebars and my back screen back here, so this is how I'm going to drive. So now the hardest part is to bring up that bobbin thread. So I might have to run to the front to do that because the infinity is a little too long for me to reach over. So I've put my machine at the start point and I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread at the front, and I'm actually going to do it right here. I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread at the front and then come back here to stitch that row. Once I've stitched that row, I'm going to stitch in that negative space stuff coming back, and I can see, because of the red lines, where that needs to go. I'm sorry, I didn't show you pulling my bobbin thread up, only because I have to move the camera every time I walk that way, just because I only have like 1.5 feet that I'm squeezing through, and that's where the camera is. So my bobbin thread is up, needle stayed down, I did my tie off. So now I'm checking my settings on my back handlebars. Everything looks good here. I'm going to slow it down from what I normally go because I'm just not great. And now I have a laser light, and I'm just going to follow the design as I stitch. Now something very important with this, I have it stopping needle down. I'm going to stop and I'm going to shift over. You don't want to try to drive with your hands over here. Stay behind the machine. Nothing says that you're not allowed to stop. That's one of the things I find most about people when they're stitching. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know when to stop, or how to feel things. Oh my gosh, the design's looking good. Let's keep it going. shift. Alright, now that I've got to the end, I'm going to travel back and do those negative block fills. I have these dash marks on my quilt top, so I'm able to just kind of travel over. When I get to a line, I'm going to stitch that line. And I'm being careful to stay right on the same edge. So I have like these few spikes right here and then the fat part. And now I'm back to the end. So now that first pass is done. Let's go see what it looks like. Alright, so here's the first pass. You'll see that I have the half pieces done up here. That's when I did the second row back. And the first one up. And what I like about this is that it looks hand done. It doesn't look like a computer did it. So, again, if you want to practice your free motion, well, that one got a little funky. Well, I guess that's what they all look like. It's just my thing. We can't really see it here just because of how the lighting is. But this is the first pass, so now we have to advance. All right, when we want to advance this, we can see the design here. I'm going to move the machine out of the way. So that's our full pantograph that we just stitched. There's the right side. There's the left side. Ooh. We have the top. And we have the bottom marked. You can't see it, it's over here. But we have the top marked. We're going to pick this top point and we're going to needle down in it. I like to use somewhere in the middle. I have 5 pages. I'm going to use something around page 3. I might have to use page 2 because the camera might be in the way. Oh no, I can get there. We're very close. So I'm putting my laser light at the point. That's where it's stitched. So when I was stitching, this is what I was tracing. So now my laser light is there. I am going to needle down. So now my needle is in the quilt. So I'm going to go release my side clamps. I'm going to release the ratchets on my belly bar and my top bar. And then I'm going to start advancing this. And as I advance it, you're going to see the red light move down, and I'm going to watch that red light until that red light gets to this point right here, which is kind of hard to see, but there's the dashed kind of fire. I want to get this point right here because that's the next row. So let me go do that. Now when I roll this, I'm going to roll it slow because I am moving my machine. And you'll see I went a little bit far, but watch what happens whenever I tighten these up. So now I've advanced and I'm ready to stitch the next row. I still need to put on my side clamps and do all of that, but now I'm next row ready. All right, so I want to do another row, but I want you to see what it's like with the laser light here. So I've already tied off. I'm not perfectly straight, but I'm going to move up to this. Remember, the right side of this paper is where my design actually starts, or where my quilt actually starts. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to stitch this kind of dashed line. So I'm actually starting here. So I'm just going to go and I'm tracing the laser light as I stitch across. I apologize if it gets shaky. And so remember, the right side of my tape is the ending, so I'm not going to get all the way over to it. I'm pretty close and I'm good. All right, so here we are at the final row. I've already basted down the edge and I started to stitch this. I was like, wait a minute, I should probably show how to do this. So this is, I have my needle down. I'm going to come all the way out to the edge. I have my needle down at the bottom edge of my quilt. I've basted it down. I can go over it a little bit, but if I fold this back, I'm really close to my backing. Like, I really cut everything very close for this quilt. Usually I come and trim my backing off, but in this case I'm not rolling back and forth, so it's going to be fine. So I need to go and mark this on my paper so I know that I don't stitch farther than this line, because this is going to be my this is the bottom. I'm going to be able to do the full flames up into the part that nests here, but I don't have to do the full flame coming towards us because it's going to get cut off. So let's go to the back and I'll show you what I'm going to do. All right, so this is where we can see, like I'm at the edge. So if I look at all these flames, I can't really go up to the top point of the inner flame. The outside flame, I'm definitely not going to get all of this because this is my plane. It's kind of cutting everything off. I can visualize this, but if you're someone who can't visualize, that's where your tape comes in. You want a tape that you know you're going to be able to get off. I probably wouldn't use this painter's tape. Or you can just mark it with a pencil and do your line. But if you had some tape, I'm trying to work around things with the camera and everything. You could just like place some painter's tape across and do it across the whole length if you want, or just I would make markers. And this is your visual representation of this is the edge of my quilt. Don't go any higher than that. So as I quilt this, I'm going to turn you, and I am quilting left to right because, yeah, I felt like it. This flame design isn't going to mess like the left to right because there's so much movement front to back. It shouldn't have me shredding threads, and I haven't had any issues. So I've already stitched this because I'm going against the arrows. So I'm going to stitch to the right, and basically I'm going to stitch to here because that's higher than my mark. So I'm going to stitch my next. Flame coming towards me. Now I'm going back up to the top one. So here's my plane. I'm just going to visualize that. And here's my plane. I'm visualizing again. I'll stitch over, and then now I'm back to my next bottom flame. Now I'm back to a top flame, visualizing that plane. And even if I'm not exactly perfect at the edge, remember, there's binding going on, so I'll be able to, that's all going to be covered in the binding. Now I'm visualizing that plane again. I felt things moving under there, and it was my glue tape. I don't know how I did that. So that is how you do that final row. You're going to mark a line across, and you're not going to go anywhere higher than that. And hopefully this doesn't rip my paper. I was going to say it came off really good until it started to rip. And now I'll have this that I can fan fold, stick in my 3-ring binder, and have it for next time. Plus, I have the other, 10 pages, 12 pages, because I think they printed out 17, so I could do the whole length. See how this got bent over, and now it's kind of flippity-floppity? This is the problem with Pantos. When you roll them up, they want to curl like this, so you have to put stuff on top of it to keep it from curling. I might actually add a little piece of tape. So, alright, that's it. We'll see you in a minute. All right, everyone, so I've taken the quilt off. It is done. Here is my masterpiece. I actually really like this quilt. It's very easy. I mean, like I said, I made this by getting 1/4 yard strips, cutting them at different widths, and just sewing them together in my pattern. The design, again, is a print at home from Quiltable. This one happens to be Fireplace. If you have Pro Stitcher and like, oh, I don't want to do that, there is a Pro Stitcher version available, so feel free to use that. Buy that one. Remember, code ASF will save you an additional 10%. But yeah, I don't think it's too bad. And Ben did a little bit of this one. So if you're on social media and you follow me, if you don't, you should. Adam's So Fun with an SEW on Facebook and Instagram. I posted a picture. I had Ben do some of the pantograph stuff. He doesn't use the long arm that often. So if Ben can do it, you can do it. And I'm going to tell you, his two kind of fireplace designs, his two designs that he did, so much better than mine. But I made him do it before he went and got his haircut. So this is the final product. I will post a picture so you can see the detail a little better up close. This is the back. Nothing fancy, but as always, thank you for joining me. I'm going to have to go in and I have random threads. Thank you for joining me, and remember, like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're notified when new videos drop. For those of you who don't have Pro Stitcher, I hope this helped you a little bit, especially if you're a Pantograph user. And I'm telling you, those print at homes from Quiltable are so nice, because now that I've used it, I'm just going to fan fold it, 3-hole punch it, and stick it into a binder. And then I have it there until I need to use it again. So thank you always. At the end of the day, it's just quilting. We want to have a good time. I messed up a few times, and guess what? Meh, who cares? You can only see the texture, so it works. Yeah, match your threads. We'll see you in the next video, and happy quilting, everybody. Bye.